I absolutely hate the color scheme up in here because it's actually very bright in here, but it's getting it's not even getting dark. It's actually like it's bright outside, as you can obviously tell from this thing, but because of the lighting and the shading, everything that's white looks blue. I don't like that. But yeah, welcome to another episode of, I don't want to say welcome to another episode of I'd Rather Be Wrestling, because this isn't, I don't like doing these. I don't like talking about wrestling. But another thing has kind of, sort of just popped into my brain that I just felt the need to rant about. So here we go. Comedy wrestling. I don't. Wrestling fans love to try to make it seem like comedy wrestling or being funny is like some kind of demotion, while at the same time saying that our truth is like the goat, right? And the thing is, our truth is kind of the goat. He's kind of like he's a former NWA champion. He's held, I want to say he's held every title except for the Intercontinental. He hasn't been Intercontinental champion. He hasn't been world champion, but he's been United States champion, tag champion, something else. I mean, I think is he also money? No, he's never been Money in the Bank. But the fact of the matter is that like the dude is good, and he also is smart enough to know that he's getting up there in age. So, rather than him do all the crazy stuff that he used to be able to do when he was younger, he probably plays it safe and does it hilariously. But it's like, the thing is that like I don't think being a comedy wrestler or being funny in general is a demotion in professional wrestling. I never understood why anybody would think so, and a lot of people love to say stuff like, "Well, I mean, I can't take him seriously anymore," which is like a weird thing. It's weird for multiple reasons. First off, it's a weird approach to comedy, because comedy, like many other forms of art, is a form of communication. It's a form of messaging. It's a message in the thing that they're telling you. It's not just a joke. Nothing is ever just a joke. Sometimes, I mean, there's always like something deeper to it. In other words, if I can't ask you why you think a joke is funny, then you didn't like you don't you, I don't you're not I don't want to say you're not smart, but like you just reflexively laughed at something and you don't even know why. It's like if you reflexively laughed at something, you don't even know why you laughed at it. That just doesn't sound like a smart thing. So it doesn't really seem like you're not taking it seriously as much as you're not smart enough to understand whatever message is actually happening. But even from the wrestling perspective, my perspective is that like being a comedy wrestler has like so much potential in it. First off, let's just say if a comedy wrestler has a winning streak, right? That means that you kind of have no choice but to take them seriously. They're winning. Or if a comedy wrestler is losing, then the moment that they win is going to be a very important moment for them. You know what I'm saying? If a comedy wrestler gets serious, then you know that something is probably different is going to happen. They're going to probably be different they're probably going to be approached in a different manner. The whole idea is that like, oh, I can't take them seriously. I know they should lose every match that they're in because I think they're funny now. It's like that's so entitled of this current fan base, man. It's just wild to me. And the thing is, like I said, I want to agree with the fan base on certain things, but I just can't. Not with this. Big E Langston is like quite possibly the best example of comedy wrestling to me, because of the fact that he could have because when you're Vince McMahon basically like gave us this what's the word I'm looking for, this cardboard cutout of what a big wrestler should be. They should be frowning and stare at the camera, and every so often just walk down to the ring really slowly. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what being a big wrestler meant back in the day. Every so often you would just hit somebody really hard and then roar at the camera. That was what you did when you were a big wrestler. You had no personality. You was just angry and silent, unless you roar. Yeah, I'm big. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, that's boring. That's boring. That's child stuff, man. Like, this is 2020s, man. Like, big people also have personalities. If anything, being a comedy wrestler is proof. Like, if you can play a comedy role, that's proof that you can you could do multiple layers, man. There's wrestlers who could be serious and funny. Well, there's some wrestlers, like, if I don't laugh at the joke, then the joke wasn't funny. Or you just didn't like the joke. Don't be entitled. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't joke, it's like if you don't like the joke, that just means you didn't like the joke. Some people love the joke. Like, all right, like, you know, like, okay, just be cool. Like my whole, like I said, Biggie, like, and there's also times where comedy wrestlers were on the verge of become like, bro. Santino Marella was the last guy eliminated from that Royal Rumble. He was the last guy. Santino Marella. This Cobra. You know what I'm saying? Being a comedy wrestler can also get you over because if done right, it can work. Remember Mizdow? I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mizdow was if I'm not mistaken, Mizdow was Money in the Bank champion. Well, no, not Money in the Bank champion, but he was a Money in the Bank winner when he was being Mizdow. But he probably might have did it beforehand, and he also lost to the first guy who lost it. In any case, though, the fact is that like comedy works. Like I'm not saying that every wrestler should be funny or goofy or whatever, but the fact is that like professional wrestling also involves acting. You should be able to like, you know, explore multiple realms of who you are as a person in order to do the thing. You know what I'm saying? Some wrestlers can be comedic and knock it out the park. Other wrestlers probably gonna try to be comedic, not even try to be comedic, be told to be comedic, because another thing that we tend to forget is that like not every wrestler wants to do the thing that they're told to do on TV. They're just doing, because professional wrestling is still a job. If you're told to do something, you do it. It's just that simple. It's not. You really thought that Steve Blackman wanted to do the cheese head thing? Or what? Which one did it? It was somebody did the cheese head and somebody did a moppy thing. Did you really think that they wanted to do those things? Did you really think that they went to the office upstairs and was like, "Yo, I got a really awesome idea for a gimmick. Let me get a mop." No, but seriously, like, no. What happens is that the higher ups be like, "Hey, you hold this mop and act crazy," and if it's your job, be like, "Okay, fine." You know what I mean? Like, that's another thing that wrestling fans be like, "Man, I can't believe that they wanted to do that and they let them do that." Like, shut up, bro. Like, you can't you can't be upset with a wrestling company for doing something to a wrestler and then act like a wrestler deserves something and has something coming. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you can't suspend your disbelief and then do the opposite in a moment. It's like, you know, you can't be like, "Oh, I can't believe the company is holding this wrestler down," and then at the same time be like, "I can't believe this wrestler wanted to do this ridiculous gimmick that we don't agree with because they totally chose to do it on their own." Like, shut up, bro. Shut up. But yeah, like comedy wrestling, in my opinion, I feel like there's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? Especially if done correctly. I remember when Goldust and Booker T were tagging up, and it was that was a thing of beauty. And if you ask Booker T himself, he'll probably say that was probably some of his more favorite moments in WWE, because it gave him a chance to sort of be more than just the really good wrestler that he was. He had a chance to break out of it and do other things. You know what I'm saying? It's about having a personality, people. Like, being a professional wrestler has evolved. It's 2024. We have so many things that we could like tap into now that we just being different isn't always wrong. And the problem is that wrestling fans are too busy trying to say, "Well, if I think it's wrong, it is wrong." And it's like, no, it's not, bro. Calm down. True. So yeah, would I have Akira Tozawa versus, like, if I was booking my own show, right, and I had a chance to get Akira Tozawa and Daniel Garcia as the main event, I would do that. Why? Because I've seen both of these guys wrestle, and I know that they will have a good wrestling match. Yeah, but that's not going to sell you any tickets. No, it won't sell you my ticket. You're not going to buy the ticket to come see that main event, but somebody else might. Somebody else who's probably a fan of Daniel Garcia, somebody else who's probably a fan of Akira Tozawa, will probably want to see that match happen. If you don't want to see it, just say you don't want to see it. Just say, "Well, you wouldn't get any of my money," because then that's a respectful thing to say. I can't get mad. I can't disagree with you on that. I can't be like, "No, I would totally get your money." I wouldn't do that. All you gotta do is just say, "Well, you wouldn't get any of my money," and I'll be like, "I understand." But that's what I'm saying, bro. It's fans, bro. I don't understand what it is, bro. Fans do not like wrestling. Fans don't like. I'm like my biggest issue when it comes to professional wrestling fandoms is that like they always have these perfect ideas about how they could improve a wrestling company or just improve like you go into the Instagram communities of any of these wrestling companies, like well specifically WWE and AEW because those are the only two that wrestling fans like that actually interact with. Like if, they don't care about the indies, they only care about the two big companies on TV right now, which is another thing I'm kind of annoyed with. But you know like but it's like they always have these great ideas as to how they're going to like improve professional wrestling, but if you tell them to like start up their own company or get involved in professional wrestling or anything of that sort, the first thing they do is like tuck their tail between their legs and be like I shouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean? That's one reason why I would say like I don't respect critics, because critics, like of course critics is going to say something is terrible because that's all they can do. They don't have any like I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like am I like the critic, being a critic is like the laziest job on the planet, because in order for you to be a critic you have to wait for somebody to create something for you to critique. So if nobody creates anything, you don't have a job, so you're lazy. Like, I don't respect you because you don't do anything except look at what somebody else is doing and be like, you're doing that wrong. Show me how to do this thing. I don't have to. Then you're lazy. But yeah, though, man, that's what I'm saying. Like, every wrestler has the capabilities of, like, wrestling at 100. Every wrestler is talented. Every wrestler, like, like, the whole idea, every wrestler is capable of being funny. Every wrestler is capable of being funny. Every wrestler is capable of being serious. Every wrestler has the capabilities of being a main event talent. Even the wrestler that I don't think is gonna be a main event talent. Yes, even that wrestler. You just don't care about them, so you don't like them, so you don't want to watch them. But just because you don't want to watch them doesn't mean nobody else would. I personally think that Garcia is doing a great thing. I think Tozawa is doing a great thing. I think R-Truth is doing a great thing. I loved Santino Marella. I loved Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler when they were tagging up. I love funny wrestling. Like I remember way back in the day, it was Colt Cabana, and when he was in Ring of Honor. There was this other wrestler, his name was Nemesis, and he was in PWG. And PWG on its own is just like a ridiculously offensive company. But every so often they do comedy wrestling, and I thought that some of the stuff that they did was hilarious. You know what I mean? And I mean, like, it's just like you got a chance to see. I mean, how often do you get the chance to see AJ Styles do the Carlton? Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah. It's like wrestling company, like, in my opinion, wrestling is more than just what you thought it was back in the 80s. It's more than just big, beefy men beating the crap out of each other for your amusement. There's, like, it's bigger now. It's bigger now, it's more expanded now, and you kind of have to branch out. And if you're not willing to branch out, at least admit it to yourself instead of trying to turn it into a trend for everybody else to follow. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to follow it. You can't tell me, oh, this wrestler is bad, and I'm going to be like, wow, this guy said this wrestler is bad. I better agree with them. No, that's not me. You can't be like, oh, this company is actually doing terrible. I'm going to be like, well, I still like the company. You know what I mean? Like, I don't fan wagon. I don't fan wagon. But yeah, comedy wrestling is dope. And if you don't like it, okay. But just know that there's nothing wrong with it. I think that was it. Y'all be easy.